What's up, guys? It's Fluid Football and welcome back to another episode of how each club will do next season, part 8. In this part we have Newcastle and Nottingham Forest. If you haven't watched the last episode, I recommend it. Manchester United and Manchester City. So go and watch that before you watch this one. But yeah, in this episode it is Newcastle and Nottingham Forest. So let's just get straight into it with Newcastle. What a season they had last season, Champions League football. I don't think anybody predicted that. I think a big reason for why Newcastle played so well last season was because of the takeover. Under Mike Ashley, for all those years, it's been, shocking. And I think they've played with a bit of pride this season. Last season, played a bit of pride, and yeah, they really shocked me, and I think the rest of the Premier League world, because who expected Newcastle to get Champions League football? Let's be honest, nobody. However, I think they're going to struggle next season. I do, and I don't think I'm the only one saying this. I really do think they're going to struggle next season. Because they've never been in the Champions League before. You know what I mean? So, it's going to be hard to, I think it's going to be hard for Eddie Howe to, use his squad, because Newcastle's squad isn't the biggest. So, he might need to play, his strongest team, twice in a week, which is doable, Luckily, you're not playing Europa League football, because that is very hard to do, Thursday to Sunday. But, Tuesday or Wednesday to Saturday or Sunday, it's doable. But I do expect a dip in form from Newcastle next season. I think they've made some good signings. Tonali, I think, is a brilliant signing. Probably up there with signing of the season, in my opinion. I've always loved Tonali. Ever since he was at Brescia, I wanted United to sign him. We didn't get him, and I think he'd be a revelation at Newcastle, to be honest with you. And I do. I see him struggling next season, Newcastle. I just think it's that Champions League football. They're not going to win the Champions League, let's be honest. I mean, if they do, unbelievable, but they're just not. But, Newcastle got that takeover, and, within the next, 5-10 years, they're probably going to be challenging for the Premier League, with Manchester City, because I don't think they're going away. So, Newcastle have a good future, a very good future. I think they will be constantly in the Champions League now, because if you look at Manchester City, once they got in, they never left. But the Premier League wasn't as strong as it is now, And I do think they will miss out on Champions League football, Newcastle. I do. And I don't know by how many points. I don't know where they'll finish. But I expect them to struggle next season. I still expect them to get Europe, Conference League or Europa League. And I think that'll be, again, a good season for Newcastle under Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe, he's not going to be there for long. He did an unbelievable job last season. Nobody expected that by Eddie Howe. But he's not the long-term manager for Newcastle. He just isn't. I've heard Newcastle fans saying that he's like the Sir Alex Ferguson or the Arsene Wenger of Newcastle. No. It's very rare nowadays that we have managers who, are in the job for like more than 5 years. It's very rare. Obviously Guardiola and Klopp, because they've been successful. But it's very rare. So yeah, Eddie Howe will be getting booted out soon, in my opinion. I don't know when it'll happen, but I do think it'll be soon. But no, I think Newcastle will have another good season. I just don't think they will get Champions League. Where do I think they'll go in the Champions League? Well, they're going to get the hardest group out of the Premier League. But St James's Park is a fortress. It is an absolute fortress, and when it gets going, my word, the atmosphere is unbelievable, unbelievable. And you know, Newcastle could use that, you know, to their advantage next season, in the Premier League and the Champions League. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting season next season for Newcastle. But moving on to the next team, Nottingham Forest. I think many people expected Nottingham Forest to get relegated last season. I think Steve Cooper did a brilliant job. You know, remember that point in the season when he nearly got sacked, and then, you know, the Forest board decided to keep him. What a good decision that was. But then, you know, you look at last season for Forest. Obviously, they signed so many players, and I was questioning whether it was going to work. And in the end, it did work because they stayed up. But I actually think Forest will stay up, by the way. I think they'll stay up, and for them, you know, that's a good season. You know, Nottingham Forest are a very historical football club. They're a very big club in England. They are. And, you know, you always want to see the Premier League with Nottingham Forest in, I think, anyway, because they're a traditional club, you know. But no, I do expect Forest to stay up. I don't even think they'll scrape it. I think they might clear it, to be honest with you. Like, you know, for example, if 18th's like, I don't know, 20 points, I think Forest might get like 34, 36 points. I think they'll be comfortable, to be honest with you. You know, I look at Brennan Johnson, Morgan Gibbs-White, two big players for Nottingham Forest, who last season, in my opinion, were actually very good, especially Morgan Gibbs-White. I think Morgan Gibbs-White is an unbelievable player. You know, the fee went for 40 million, I think it was. I mean, he hasn't really lived up to it yet, but, you know, he's still young. You know, this is only his second season. But yeah, I think Forest, you know, will stay up, and I think that's always the aim for Nottingham Forest. You know, they're nowhere near winning the Premier League or getting anywhere near Europe. So, you know, I think staying up for Forest is the priority. I think Steve Cooper has done an unbelievable job with Nottingham Forest. I really do. The fact that he even nearly got sacked, you know, because Forest were on that poor, they were on that poor run of form, weren't they? But yeah, they decided to keep him, and, you know, look what he did. You know, got to a Carabao Cup semi-final. You know, they got obliterated, to be honest, by Manchester United. But no, I think Forest will have another good season. But we'll see. You know, I like Nottingham Forest. You know, it's hard to dislike them, to be honest. You know, when it's like Newcastle, St James's Park. You know, when the City ground gets going, it gets going. You know, they had some good results there last season. You know, drew to Man City, I believe. They beat Liverpool there. So, you know, when it gets going, it gets going. And I think they will try and use that as, you know, their way of trying to stay up. You know, I thought Forest were going down. You know, just at the end there, quickly. Last season, I thought Forest were going down. It was a miracle I thought they stayed up, to be honest with you. Because their run of fixtures near the end looked so hard. But they didn't really lose any. It was crazy, you know. They beat Arsenal on the final day to give Man City the league. You know, so it's interesting what Forest are going to do next season, but I think they'll be fine. But guys, let me know in the comments your thoughts on how you think Newcastle and Nottingham Forest will do next season. So thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll catch you later.